Today, I'm going to talk about an interesting thing that happened to us. We bought a farm on today's episode of the Culmination. Let's go. So yes, we bought a farm. First, here's the backstory, what led up to my wife and I buying a farm. I've always wanted to buy some land, learn about farming, grow my own produce, and raise my own livestock. For some of you who don't know my story, I lived on a farm for about 2 years. I left Los Angeles at the end of the 90s and moved to central New Hampshire, where my friends had bought a retired apple orchard. They weren't using it as a farm, growing apples or food. It was just a 40-acre estate that needed to be cared for. I mowed the lawn in the spring, chopped wood in the summer, raked leaves in the fall, and in the winter, we used the snowblower. Outside of going home for the holidays and a couple of times when I had to travel to Los Angeles or Florida for short stints, I was there for 2 full seasons. I found life there very peaceful. Prior to that, I worked for 10 years in corporate America at a software company. It was a great time. I had a lot of fun and it was a great learning experience, but I had been caught up in this middle-class trap and I didn't know how much there was outside a workaday world of Los Angeles in the tech sector in the late 90s. So moving to central New Hampshire in the middle of winter was definitely a big eye-opener for me. After being there for a while, I got into the best shape of my life. I was running every day, eating well, and was just incredibly strong. I mean, if you can imagine, I would be up at like 5 o'clock in the morning before the sun was up. We'd have these huge breakfasts, and then that would be the start of my day. And we'd be out there working on the land. It was a lot of fun. One day after being out there for about 6 or 7 months, I was listening to music and driving a ride-along mower. That moment was one of the most peaceful of my entire existence. I was completely in the zone, feeling no pressure. It was very calming and wonderful. I'd always thought that I had to make a lot of money, and in that moment, I just felt like I had more peace than I'd ever had. And I liked that feeling more than what I would imagine what being super rich was like. I realized in that moment that I was more of a happiness motivated person, not necessarily a money motivated person. Now, later on after that, I realized I didn't want to be poor either and just ride that mower off into the sunset forever. So I'd resolve both of those things, to be happy and make money as well. The peaceful feeling would be one that I would always try to capture and strive for, and I'd use it to drive me as I created success in life. I was on that farm in 1999, 2000, and 2001. Fast forward to 20 years later, and my wife and I had just moved to Florida from Los Angeles right in the middle of the pandemic. America was in the middle of a terrible situation, and I didn't agree with much of it. We had a nice house in Florida. Everything was really fun. But I got to thinking, how did we live 100 years ago? What would it be like to own our own farm and live off the grid? That's when I started to create in my mind a future of living on a farm somewhere. My wife and I flew up to New Hampshire and drove all over looking for a place that fit the picture of our minds, in our minds of what it was that we wanted. But one thing we didn't factor in New Hampshire in the spring was ticks. I didn't recall from living there that ticks were that bad. I remember being outside all the time and I never ran into ticks. In the late 90s, early 2000s. After returning from looking at a farm when we were there, my wife and I had ticks all over us. The realtor recounted a story of working in his garden and having his whole back covered with ticks. He said that he took a spatula and scraped them all off. Well, that was not a life we wanted to subscribe to. On top of that, we checked out New Hampshire weather extremes and in the end decided to look elsewhere. It was just going to be way too much for us. And with a baby, it was going to be unmanageable and untenable to live in the wilds of New Hampshire. Then I followed a guy on Instagram who had the same realization as me, and I was just blown away. He moved his wife and his family, and his baby out of the city and onto a farm. He was opening up a series of farms in Central Florida, and I said, I'm in. This sounds great. Over the course of a year, we went out and visited the property, did some research, and talked to the guy and his company. It was awesome. He's actually one of the people I'm looking to interview, got his agreement to come on and do a quick interview. And I think it's going to be really, really good. So I'll keep you guys posted on when that's going to be. But we closed on the property at the end of last year and went out there. It was totally surreal. We got a chance to walk on our farm. It's 10 acres in Central Florida, and I was totally blown away. I said, this is our land, man. We're still trying to figure out what we want to do with it. But the great thing is that we've got some turnkey solutions to farming, and we've started to engage some land developers as to how to create it, how to build a house, and other things we want to do. We're going to be getting some drawings, which I'll post up on our social media. We're going to have 3 little guest houses. There's a whole area where we'll have livestock. We have a franchise opportunity to have all of these animals and then utilize the land. They sell meat, dairy, eggs, and other things and split up the profits. We'll wind up having cash flow on the property. Know that this is not investment advice of any kind, but this property and this opportunity, it sounds really, really good. So if life hits the fan, we can get out of town, run to our farm, and exist totally off the grid. It's going to be exciting, and this is the first of probably many little adventure stories about the farm. As we develop it a little bit more, I'll keep you guys in the loop. So the lesson here is dream big, write down your dreams, think big, get out there and make it happen. Give me some feedback in the comments. What did you think about this? Do you have big dreams of owning a farm one day, living off the land, being off the grid, and being totally self-sufficient? Or are you too much of a city person and feel that you wouldn't be able to survive? I know that I kind of felt like that, but we're jumping into this adventure wholeheartedly and we're excited about it. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe and turn on notifications and you'll be notified when we have new content posted. And we'll see you the next time on the Culmination. Thanks, guys. See you later.